Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, as governments around the world try to realign what it means to be free, I'll make a plea for you to keep fighting for a return to normality in the digest, and not just for Christmas either, forever. Then, I hear from my superstar panellists, former Daily Star editor and current columnist Dawn Neeson, the Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson, and the social commentator Esther Kraku. As Jacob Rees-Mogg stands up for common sense in Boris Johnson's cabinet, is he right that the government should trust people to do the right thing rather than introduce more draconian restrictions? Legendary BBC presenter Dame Esther Ranson goes head-to-head with anti-lockdown campaigner James Melville and broadcaster Ingrid Tarrant in what promises to be a fiery final clash of the year. It feels like freedom of speech is under a relentless assault these days. But is a landmark legal victory against non-crime hate incidents a tipping point? New GB News host Darren Grimes, who has suffered at the hands of this chilling policy, gives his uncompromising take in The Outsider. Has COVID caused those deranged, devolved dictators Drakeford and Sturgeon to go completely stark, maving mad with power? And as even our ever-stoic Queen is forced to change her Christmas plans, how should the UK learn to live with COVID in the long term? I'll debate those topics and take a look at who's in the running for this year's Christmas #1 in the media buzz. Plus, breakfast TV legend and veteran journalist Anne Diamond joins me to make a very special announcement. You won't want to miss that at 9:30. We'll also find out, and I'm very excited about this, who takes out the prestigious crown of 2021's Ultimate Greatest Britain and Ultimate Union Jackass. Can you guess who it could be? Find out after we count down this year's top 10 nominations at 10:30. As ever, I'll bring you a first look at tomorrow's front pages hot off the press too. This is Dan Wootton Tonight. Let's go. Just one thing first, though. I guess tonight I meant to be thanking the Prime Minister. Thank you for letting us have our Christmas, seeing our families. Thank you, PM. And thank you for letting us continue to live our lives too. But don't worry, we just know that if we're bad boys and girls, all our freedoms will be immediately stripped away again.
Actually, we can't rule out any further measures after Christmas, and we're going to keep a constant eye on the data. We'll do whatever it takes to protect public health. But in view of the continuing uncertainty about several things, severity of Omicron, uncertainty about the hospitalisation rate or the impact of the vaccine rollout and the boosters, we don't think today that there is enough evidence to justify any tougher measures before Christmas.
I reckon the penny is dropping in government that they've been unnecessarily spooked by the doomsday scientists and dodgy sage predictions yet again. Yes, case rates have exploded, but hospitalisations and deaths are flat. Stop the panic. My final digest of the year on why we must not go along with continued restrictions on our lives shortly, then my superstar panel. And my goodness, they have pulled out all stops for my final show this year. Look at her. She's our Christmas angel, the Daily Star columnist Dawn Neeson, sparkling up a storm. And I have to say, he's put me to shame tonight. The Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson, how suave is he? And she's our sexy little Tinkerbell on top of the Christmas tree, political commentator Esther Kraku. That'll take me on in just a moment. But first, the news at 9 with Polly Middlehurst.
Good evening. The Prime Minister has confirmed Christmas can go ahead as planned in England. Boris Johnson has ruled out tougher restrictions before the 25th of December. The Prime Minister saying there's still uncertainty about hospital admission rates and the severity of the Omicron variant of coronavirus. He says the government will continue to monitor the situation very closely and may bring in new measures after Christmas.
Naturally, we can't rule out any further measures after Christmas, and we're going to keep a constant eye on the data. But in view of the continuing uncertainty about several things, severity of Omicron, uncertainty about the hospitalisation rate or the impact of the vaccine rollout and the boosters, we don't think today that there is enough evidence to justify any tougher measures before Christmas.
That's England, but what about Scotland? Well, the First Minister today announced that from Boxing Day, all outdoor events will be limited to just 500 people. That'll be for a period of 3 weeks to help slow down the spread of the Omicron variant in Scotland. Nicola Sturgeon also confirmed the means of cancellation. That means the cancellation of Edinburgh's world-famous Hogmanay Street Party, and football matches will also become effectively spectator-free. She stressed that advice for Christmas Day still stands and that family gatherings should be kept as small as possible and as safe as possible.
At a time when these services are already under severe pressure and also dealing with high staff absences, limiting large-scale events will help them focus on delivering essential services to the public. So I would ask the public, despite the disappointment I know this decision will generate, to please understand the reasons for it.
Nicola Sturgeon. Well, £1 billion is being made available by the Treasury to support businesses most impacted by the Omicron variant across the UK. It's going to include £6,000 grants for hospitality and leisure firms in England. The government will also cover statutory sick pay for those who test positive or those who have to self-isolate. However, some industry leaders have criticised the funding as inadequate. Labour has welcomed the measures but say they should have been introduced earlier. Away from COVID, the man accused of fatally stabbing Sir David Amess and charged with terrorism offences has pleaded not guilty. The Conservative MP was killed during a constituency surgery in Essex in October. 25-year-old Ali Harbi Ali is charged with his murder and with preparing acts of terrorism between May 2019 and September of this year. A full trial is due to be held in March. The Metropolitan Police is being accused of aiding and abetting a criminal offence over its handling of an alleged Downing Street Christmas party in December last year. The Met is under investigation now by the Independent Office for Police Conduct after an official complaint. Baroness Jones of Mousecombe claims officers regarding Downing Street deliberately failed to enforce the law. Officials and advisers are alleged to have made speeches, drunk wine and exchanged Secret Santa gifts at the event during London's lockdown. You're right up to date. I'm back in an hour. Now back to Dan Wootton.
Politicians telling us with whom we can spend our Christmas Day, how many family members we can host in our own homes, whether we can partake in celebrations on New Year's Eve, if our children can go to school to learn, what we wear, where we meet, where we eat, what time businesses open, which medical procedures we undergo, even whether windows must stay open in the middle of winter. I could be describing Christmas 2020, but somewhat unbelievably, this is Britain right now, 21 months into this fast-fading pandemic, with 95% of adults, never forget this, positively bursting with COVID antibodies. So what is this really about? And have we as a society been so broken and battered and left so bruised by these controls in our lives for the past 2 years that we've simply started to give up? Just go along with whatever they tell us, to hell with the evidence. It's all just become too exhausting, too hard, too soul-destroying to keep hope. And believe me, I hear you. I've been fighting against these draconian restrictions on the way that we live, enforced by law since April 2020. And on this, my last show of 2021, I plead with you not to give up on a return to normal. We can't keep living like this. We won't keep living like this. But that certainly seems to be what the powerful and the elite, backed by big media, big tech and big business, seem to want. Take Leo Varadkar, Ireland's former Taoiseach and now deputy leader, who said this of the fight against COVID becoming a long war. Perhaps in advance of those winters and those variants, we should try to have periods of freedom and give people a bit of a break. Periods of freedom. Periods of freedom. Wrap your head around that one. We are allowing our leaders to talk about a fundamental change between the state and its citizens, a total realignment of freedom as we know it. And there seems to be so little resistance. Then you've got the World Health Organization, who dismally failed in holding China to account for unleashing this virus on the world. They're urging people to cancel holiday plans. Its chief executive, Dr. Tedros, said, an event cancelled is better than a life cancelled. Just think about the repercussions of what he's saying. A life without risk is a life without joy. A life without sport, cars, sea swimming, holidays, or leaving the house at all. As human beings, we have a right to weigh up risks and decide what we want to do. That's freedom. So we must live our lives, not just for Christmas and New Year, but forever. And I must thank you tonight, because for the past 6 months here on this show, I have tried to offer an alternative to the fear factory that is the British mainstream broadcast media, that has been operating in lockstep with the hysterics and the scaremongers. Do you know, they actually seem to get off on trying to terrify you into watching them. And I have to say, you have been absolutely inspiring. I love your passion. Actually, I especially love it when you disagree with me. And I respect every single one of you. So thank you for sticking with us through the bad times, the tough times, and the times when it became fashionable to slam GBNews, because I know you believe in this mission to offer a genuine alternative. So please, this Christmas, block out the noise from the usual suspects and spend time with the ones you love. Hug them tight, because life is short, and that is a risk worth taking. And with me all night, my superstar panel, the Daily Star columnist Dawn Neeson, the Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson, and the political commentator Esther Krakow. Dawn, it's been a tough year, and I completely understand why people feel exhausted. This constant drumbeat of restrictions, of more bad news, it sometimes gets a bit too much, Dawn.
It does. It's a constant white noise of anxiety and deliberate scaremongering. Deliberately, the government's policy from day one was to terrify the population. And I do not understand how a government can do that and actually increase people's mental health problems. I mean, you know, suicide is actually going to get worse. We know it's increased already. Abuse in the home, so many problems. And you know what, Dan? We still have Sage and Neil Ferguson saying, oh no, 5,000 deaths a day. How? Show me the science that says that. Show me the modelling. And they are still doing the worst case scenario. That's all they ever give us. And you know what, Dan? I'm not listening anymore. I'm going to see who I want, when I want, how I want.
Amen.
And they can stick their rules. I'm
Amen.
sorry.
Calvin, Leo Varadkar in Ireland. What does he mean? Periods of freedom for the population.
Yeah. Well, it's that torture cycle, isn't it? Give you a bit of freedom, take it away again, give it back, take it away. And if this is a war, if he is right, then we've won the war. People are no longer being hospitalised en masse. They're no longer dying en masse. You're more likely to die from a Baldwin actor than you are from the Omicron virus. That is outrageous that we're still thinking about taking freedoms away. I said I'm going to Scotland for Christmas and the New Year. I've said it many times on this show. I won't be able to go to Hogmanay anyway because I will not get a vaccine passport for domestic reasons. But I thought I'd be able to watch it from a distance and enjoy it. Even that's been cancelled. Hogmanay has been cancelled. For what? Nothing. I'm really struggling. In fact, I'm tired, Dan. I'm mentally exhausted from constantly battling against something I don't understand. I understand why people go along with it, because it's easy to be complicit and just go along rather than keep fighting constantly.
No, we never give up this fight. We can't give up this fight. Never give it.
You know what the crazy thing is? People, when you ask when will this end, or if you just ask for clarity on the goalpost, all people are asking for is just goalposts, right? Yeah. Tell us when this will have to officially end. Come, whatever may come, this has to end at some point. When will it end? People call you a COVID denier. Yeah. And I just think, do you have any idea how the economy works? Do you have any idea how businesses work? It's like there's a reason why scientists don't run this country, right? Thank you for your information, thank you for your modelling, but we need to take it in the wider perspective of all the opportunity costs that's going to come at society as a result of following these scary models that never seem to materialise. I thought Omicron, which is basically moronic, would be good news because it's milder, it's a milder variant, which means that it's less potent, it's less, hospitalizations are not as high, deaths are nowhere near what they were last year. This sounds like good news to me, but everyone is looking for a reason to be upset and sad, and I just think, well...
And Dawn, what is that about? Because there are certainly some people, we all know these people, who actually seem to prefer the new normal, who seem to prefer leaders dictating exactly what they can do when they can leave the house.
I seriously don't understand it. I don't subscribe to conspiracy theories in any way, shape or form. But I'm now getting to the stage... No, seriously, I'm getting to the stage where I'm thinking, what is this about? Why are you doing this to us? As Esther's just quite rightly pointing out, this virus is doing what viruses do. They do, because they want to survive. So they get weaker so they can infect more people, but they don't kill their hosts. Yeah. And this, from the real-world evidence we're seeing in South Africa, which our scientists appear to be not taking any notice of, appears to be what Omicron is doing.
Well, this is it, and,
Why are we still insisting that 5,000, actually we've gone up 6,000 people, are going to die every day, according to the state?
It's like a church now, isn't it? It's literally like it has its own faith system, right? The reason why people are latching onto this is because it gives them some sort of excuse, some sort of direction in life.
I understand that, but what I don't get is when these leaders, and fine, call them cult leaders, call them religious leaders, whatever you want, Whitty, Vallance, Ferguson, all of that lot, when they are proven wrong time and again, why aren't their followers waking up?
Well, I don't think they actually have that many followers, but I think the reality is because they're not being held to account, right? You need to set an example for other people to follow, and that's the frustrating thing. There needs to be a mechanism. I mean, look at the last vote of the Commons. Look at how many Tory MPs rebelled. That needs to be on a larger scale. There needs to be an actual opposition. I don't know what the Labour Party is anymore, if you can even call
But they're not opposition, that's the problem.
Exactly.
We'll vote with you.
But there needs to be mechanisms for the public to mobilise, to actually say, we're paying you quite a significant sum to do your job. You need to stand up for what we actually believe in, because this is our lives at stake. Can you imagine what children have been through? I think for me, that's the demographic that breaks my heart the most. Young children.
Well, Arthur. One word, Arthur.
Exactly.
Should we lock down? Should we close schools again? Just one word, Arthur. That poor little boy who was tortured to death, and lockdown had a hell of a lot to do with that.
Well, it did. He may well still be alive today.
Exactly.
If there had not been lockdown, because there would have been the proper mechanisms in place.
Yeah.
Calvin, I had Sunitra Gupta on the show last night. She's one of the co-authors of the Great Barrington Declaration, but also one of the world's top epidemiologists. Yeah. I mean, here she is at the University of Oxford. She has no political motivation. In fact, in the past, she's described herself as being a left-winger, someone who supports the Labour Party. She thinks the way that we're tackling Omicron is just completely wrong. Yeah. She doesn't agree that everyone should be boosted. She thinks only the vulnerable should be vaccinated. And she's not being listened to.
No. Well, it's like Esther said about this ever-moving goalpost. Yep. So we keep hearing, well, there's a lag, there's a delay. Well, we've had 4 weeks now. If the lag is 2 weeks, then we should have known. But this Omicron does seem to be a natural vaccine. If all the vulnerable people have been offered the vaccine at this point, they should be protected in that way. But everyone else should be welcoming the Omicron variant. If it's very mild, if it's like a common cold, that should surely give you better natural immunity than an experimental vaccine. And I think we also have to address the fact that the government isn't just not looking at evidence, they're inventing their own evidence. Because we've seen from Fraser Nelson's Spectator piece that the modellers are being asked to model for certain situations. They're not looking for the best and worst case scenario. They're looking for specific answers to a question posed to them by the government in order to get the data to back up their restrictions. That's back to front.
You know, the crazy thing is they're actually discouraging. So imagine, because there will always be variants of this virus, because unfortunately for people that are not aware, there's 7.8 billion people on the planet. So these things tend to happen. They're actually discouraging countries that discover new variants from coming forward because they think Western governments are going to impose another travel ban on them. You know, I've been very vocal. The CCP has hidden a lot of information about the origins of this virus, about the extent to when it was discovered, a lot of things, right? And that's why we're in the situation we are now. The South African government and even the doctor who discovered this variant came out, said it's very mild, but I am coming out to speak on it because it's my responsibility to humanity. Yeah. They don't think of the repercussions of their behaviour, these governments. They don't think that the people's lives at risk, people's businesses at risk, that you're discouraging people from actually giving out more information about potential variants.
Leaders, and by the way, I've been saying this since the start of March 2020. There should be no border closures. Yeah. International leaders need to come together to deal with this. And also, it's completely futile. What you actually cause is a huge amount of human tragedy and economic devastation, especially for the third world. You don't stop the virus from spreading. It's absolute arrogance of Western nations who think that they can become hermit kingdoms and they can't.
It's there. The virus is there. It's all over. It's gonna mutate. It will carry on mutating. We have to learn to live with it.
The big question, I want all three of you to answer this. Boris Johnson did hold firm this week because finally there was some opposition in his cabinet. But Dawn, today, as we saw at the top of the show, he has threatened to impose restrictions after Christmas. Do you think he has the balls to stand up to the scientists and say, no, I will keep the country open?
Well, he'll have to get them out of Carrie's handbag first. I'm going to go there all the time because I think that man really needs to grow a pair. I really hope he does, Dan, because I think we have had enough and he is listening.
You think his wife's running the country, Dawn?
Boris isn't. I really wanted him to be...
You'd think with 2 kids she'd be more preoccupied. I don't understand where this comes from.
3 kids, actually, Esther. I wanted someone to be Churchillian instead I've got reptilian.
But Calvin, should we be praising Boris Johnson today? Because he did ignore Whitty and Valence, which is exactly what we've been asking him to do.
He did, but not for the right reasons. The Conservatives lost a by-election, majorly lost it.
Yeah.
He also lost, he didn't lose, but there was a rebellion in the vote in the House of Parliament. And we've seen the leaks from WhatsApp, a number of high-profile Tories are finally speaking up against him. What he's scared of is losing his premiership. Yeah. He's not afraid of the stats, he's not afraid of the evidence, he's not looking at what's going on.
This is about political survival.
Him staying in office, that's all it's about.
Esther, do you agree with that?
Completely, yes. But I also think that the scaremongers are losing less sway and less power. So I think he's also looking at public opinion in that sense. I'm not sure what the country will look like after Christmas. I genuinely think if he just imposes a lockdown, it will be universally ignored.
Yeah, I do.
It'll be universally ignored, but he could kill off the hospitality industry.
This is the problem. We can all sit here and say we're going to ignore it, but it's the businesses, it's the shops, it's the bars, the restaurants.
That's happening now. People are closing. People are cancelling their reservations right now because they're afraid of things changing, that no one knows where they stand. So the hospitality industry is dying anyway.
Yep, the West End is dying, all of the city centres are dying, and our pubs are dying. It's a real tragedy. But we're going to bring you some joy throughout the show, so thank you to my sparkly Christmas panel. They're here all night. Dawn Neeson, Calvin Robinson and Esther Kraku. But coming up, Breakfast TV legend Anne Diamond reflects on her amazing 4-decade-plus broadcasting career and makes a big announcement relating to GBNews that you won't want to miss. But next, should the government trust us to do the right thing, as suggested by Jacob Rees-Mogg, when it comes to COVID, rather than force restrictions upon us? Legendary BBC presenter Dame Esther Ranson, broadcaster Ingrid Tarrant, and anti-lockdown campaigner James Melville square off in my final feisty clash of 2021. I want to know what you think on this one too. At GBNews is where you can tweet me, and we've got a poll running there, or email me, dan@gbnews.uk. Back in a few.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. Some brighter skies for some tomorrow before more cloud and rain arrives from the west. However, backtrack to this evening and high pressure still firmly in charge, as it has been for the last week or so. And what that means, calm conditions and a cold night. But it is waning towards the near continent, allowing milder air to come from the west and also bands of rain. And we'll see that as we head through into Christmas Day. For the time being, though, it's cold outside. Holes in the cloud will allow temperatures to plummet. A fairly widespread frost anywhere from Scotland, England and some parts of Wales. Away from Northern Ireland and the West Country, a keen breeze here, more clouds and temperatures holding up. But certainly it's going to be a frosty start to the day come Wednesday morning across many areas, but with some hazy sunshine, so some brighter skies. Through the morning, though, that cloud will eventually bring some rain to Northern Ireland, quite a fresh wind across Irish Sea coast, as the rain slowly pushes up towards the western parts of Scotland, clipping West Wales as well as the West Country. Drier skies to end the day further east, but temperatures will struggle here, 4, 5, 6 degrees Celsius. And through the evening, as the rain pushes across Scotland, it will turn to snow above around 300-400 metres and even some sleetiness at lower levels for a time. As some showers move in across England and Wales, and then more wet weather returns to Northern Ireland through the latter part of Wednesday night and into Thursday morning. However, the key feature of the weather as we head through Thursday, yes, there'll be quite windy in places, outbreaks of rain, but the temperatures will be a few degrees higher, certainly feeling milder across England and Wales and Northern Ireland. Still a lot of rain, though, just grinding to a halt across Scotland, and a keen breeze across the far north as more rain pushes in across Wales and the West Country later, and also that brisk wind. Temperatures here, double figures though, so not so bad, although the air will slowly get colder from the north as we head into Christmas, with a chance of some snow showers in the northeast.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Join us for the Political Correction. We're here every Sunday to correct politics and put you, the people, back in charge.
We talk about all areas of the United Kingdom, including Northern Ireland.
Our debate goes way beyond the Westminster Village. It's about the real country. It's about your opinion. So please, we want you to tell us what you think.
This is the Political Correction.
Every Sunday morning from 10 a.m. here on GB News.
You're watching GB News live across the UK, the world and our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We're here for you. Don't forget to join our community by hitting the subscribe button.
And download the GB News app so you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you. Email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
The final clash of the year now. Cabinet freedom fighter Jacob Rees-Mogg took a stand during yesterday's crisis meeting as he urged Boris Johnson to trust the people and, for once, ignore the doomsday scientists. Now, the Daily Telegraph revealed this morning that the Leader of the Commons argued with the PM that many people had voluntarily changed their behaviour in response to Omicron and questioned the assumptions behind SAGE's modelling. Boris is said to have responded by asking how he could stand up at a press conference and justify such an approach that gave people responsibility over their own lives and freedom, to which Rees-Mogg defiantly said, "I would stand up and say I respect them for doing the right thing." Only 4 ministers are thought to support more restrictions. Shame on them. They include the Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, and the lockdown fanatic, Michael Gove. So is Rees-Mogg right that the government should trust people to do the right thing rather than introduce further restrictions? You can tweet me and vote in my poll now at GB News, or email me, dan@gbnews.uk. But to help you make up your mind on that important question, I'm joined by the famed BBC presenter Dame Esther Rantzen, the anti-lockdown campaigner James Melville, and the broadcaster Ingrid Tarrant. So, Dame Esther Rantzen, surely this is great common sense from Jacob Rees-Mogg, saying, actually, this is up to us now. Trust the public. Why don't you want to trust the public, Esther?
Well, it turns out that the public has great respect for the medical experts who, in spite of what your sparkling panel have said, actually come from a medical profession which devotes themselves, A, to saving lives, and B, to telling the truth. We aren't in the hands of doom-spreading propagandists. We are in the hands of very responsible, public-spirited medical professionals. Dan, last time we met thus, you were telling me how much you respect and admire the Queen's decision. That was at a time when you thought she was going to hold her big Christmas parties. But now she's decided against them, and you're saying she's been forced to. Now, what we know about the Queen is that she is a woman of high intelligence, she respects experts, and she consults experts. Do you really think that she is not doing the right thing now? I believe she is.
I believe the public is. I think it's cruel what she's been forced into, Dame Esther. She wanted to be with her family, with her loved ones at Sandringham, and she has to follow these ridiculous rules that for a second year means she's going to be incredibly isolated. I mean, Esther, when do we just start saying we're triple jabbed as a population? Out of the vulnerable, and I know you're part of it, the vast, vast majority, I think 80% plus have your booster jabs. Surely you've got to let people live and make decisions for themselves.
I think I've been a broadcaster for some time, and I've always found that if you give the public good information, they will use it. And I believe that our medical experts, Professor Whitty and others, have been given the public good information, including the Queen. And on the basis
Well, they've been wrong throughout the entire pandemic, Esther.
Well, the worst mistake, I'm afraid, that was made were the libertarians who said that everybody in the Far East who were locking down and taking the COVID virus seriously were wrong. And we held a football match, we held the Cheltenham races, we held a pop concert, and the virus went rampaging through our care homes and tragically killed, huge numbers of older people, members of minority communities. And until those medical experts you decry found a way of creating a vaccine that worked, we were heading towards getting the worst death rate in Europe. So we have made mistakes, but the public have learned from it. We have to be sensible.
OK, James Melville, how do you respond to Dame Esther?
I get the argument about following the science, but right now it's not about science of modelling. That modelling hasn't worked. Whether it's either worst case scenarios or best case scenarios for the last year, the SAGE models haven't reflected what's happened. It's not about following modelling science, it's about following data science. And where we're at right now is 5% of hospital beds are full of COVID patients. That is roughly the same figure we were at in August. We have a fifth of COVID patients where we are from this time last year. The situation is very different to a year ago. Now, I'm not a lockdown fan, but I could see aspects of the argument based on the stack up of numbers and hospitalizations last year, but not this year right now. It's not just here, but it's based on a few more weeks' evidence in South Africa as well. And my biggest concern is we're at a point now where we're not in the same situation we were a year ago. So at what point do we properly come out of this? What's the exit strategy? If we've had our jabs, if we've locked down, if we've adhered to sometimes ridiculous rules that aren't consistent, and also put up with the government who were telling us last Christmas to stay in our box, but at the same time, allegedly, they were having wine and cheese meetings in Downing Street, at what point do we go, we can't continue like this? Yeah. At some point, we do have to learn to live with this and get on with our lives. I get the argument about always needing to protect the vulnerable, but the data is a thing that we should be following right now. And the data suggests that we should not be having more restrictions and lockdowns.
I mean, Ingrid, don't you think actually the fact that they were partying at number 10 Downing Street as early as last May, when we were not allowed to attend funerals en masse or be with anyone outside our household, apart from one person exercising, that actually that's the biggest evidence of the fact that it should be left to common sense rather than law?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's so hypocritical, but I have to say in their defence, and I don't like to defend the government at all, they were social distancing, if you noticed in the picture.
And they were
anyway,
outside.
That's by the by. We are not, but we have been sort of just gently pushed into this nanny state. It started in the 60s. I was looking up the meaning of nanny state, and I'm going to read this out. This is exactly what it says. So a nanny state is when a government or its politics are overprotective or interfering with personal choice. And it gives examples of calorie counting, this, that and the other and all the rest of it. And it's a narrowing of individual freedoms and individual responsibilities. Now, we are grown up. This nanny state has been there sort of spoon-feeding us all the time, but we just have to remember that we are generally responsible people. I don't want to go out there. I don't want to infect other people. And if I felt rotten, I wouldn't go out there in any case. But I'm not selfish. I take lateral flow tests. By the way, you can't get them in the shops anymore at the moment.
Oh, yes, no, it's the biggest industry in Britain, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Forget the pubs. If you want to make money, just set up a damn lateral flow testing company.
But then you can't go to a pub even to show the lateral results of it because you haven't got it in the first place to get. I mean, this is horrible.
Esther, what do you disagree with what Ingrid's just said? Is there anything you disagree with? Or do you actually quite fancy the idea of a nanny state? Do you want the government to control everything you're allowed to do?
Well, in certain ways. I mean, for example, when the breathalyzer was first introduced, when seatbelts were first introduced, libertarians thought that was infringing their freedom. So after a while, you do have to look at some sensible safeguards because, sadly, we aren't all great drivers. We aren't all accident-free. And every now and then you do get irresponsible people. Every now and then you get an asymptomatic virus. And the problem that we faced, the world faced, was that this was not flu. This was a virus that spread through people who had no symptoms at all, who felt great, Ingrid.
But it's becoming flu now, Ingrid, isn't it? It is becoming just like a bad cold now, Ingrid.
Yeah, it is exactly what it is. This broke out in South Africa on the 25th of November. And now it's flatlined. That's less than a month. And we're getting hysterical. We're overreacting. It's a cold. It's a bad cold. It's got the typical symptoms of cold and flu. Headache, sore throat, sneezing, runny nose. But you give it a name, Omicron, and suddenly it becomes really serious.
Esther, why are you not happy with that?
I'll tell you why. Because as far as I know, none of us have any medical qualifications. We're not epidemiologists. We're not virologists. And
but we grow up with illnesses all our lives and we treat ourselves.
The data yet. If we don't have the data, I think...
We do have the data. We do have the data. Look, you must concede, Esther, that Omicron has been on the loose in the UK for at least a month. At least a month. Hospitalisations remain flat week on week. Deaths remain flat week on week. And that's despite massively increasing infection rates.
They're not, are they? What we've got is one day when we hope that this is the beginning of a flattening out. But week on week, it has been increasing. The numbers of cases...
The numbers have been increasing, but not the deaths. Esther, this is actually... I think you're overreacting to the whole situation here. You said you're following the science, but the science, SAGE, have been saying, actually, they're following the policies that the government are getting them to... They want them, SAGE, to be able to
James, final word to you.
Yeah, I mean, but this is back to what I said at the start. It's about following data. And at the moment, we were told it's about protecting the NHS. And at the moment, the NHS on the new variant, we don't have the data to say that they're under huge threat yet. And there's no evidence to suggest for a number of weeks that that's the case. It's not just that. If the government are going to say they're going to protect the NHS, why then have successive governments since in the last 30 years cut hospital beds in half?
Yeah, well, exactly.
So therefore,
and why are the Nightingales not open? Very good point, but that's a whole other conversation.
And at the moment, we've got data suggesting that we should be able to behave, because at the moment, the hospitalisations aren't going in the same
which is why I say break out of the box.
Hospitals.
Break out of the box. But look, fascinating discussion. I love all three of you. Thank you for being part of the show this year. That's James Melville, Dame Esther Ranson and Ingrid Tarrant. So who do you agree with? Daniel says, yes, the government should trust us, but no one has ever properly educated the public on what is needed. The British Public Information Service failed us. Paul via Twitter says, Boris is of the opinion we should trust people, but he was too scared to speak out against the scientists and doesn't even believe in the rules he is setting out. Rees-Mogg for Prime Minister. And Jo says with her tongue firmly in cheek, I'm told, it'll never catch on. This idea of personal responsibility and decision-making. And your verdict is now in. And it's overwhelming. 91% of you agree with Jacob Rees-Mogg that the government should trust people to do the right thing when it comes to COVID. However, 9% of you say we need to enforce more COVID restrictions instead. Coming up is a landmark legal victory against non-crime hate incidents, enough to save free speech. New GB News host Darren Grimes risked jail time after falling victim to one of these chilling investigations. He'll give his verdict in The Outsider. But next, a jewel of a broadcaster, breakfast TV legend Anne Diamond has a very exciting announcement that you don't want to miss.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Darren Grimes on the way, and we're going to be crowning the ultimate Union Jackass and Greatest Britain of 2021. But first, it's been a huge 6 months for GB News. Not always straightforward, that's probably a bit of an understatement, but any media startup is a massive undertaking. And our groundbreaking channel is only just getting started. You'll be able to listen to us on the radio from next month. And as you might know, Eamon Holmes has quit ITV to host our brand new breakfast show alongside Isabel Webster from January the 4th. But he's not the only breakfast TV legend that will be joining our growing team. I am delighted to announce that TV AM great and Telly legend Anne Diamond has signed as a guest presenter to host our new weekend breakfast show alongside another morning TV star, Stephen Dixon, who has joined the team from Sky News. And before Anne joins me to talk about the big move, let's take a look at her in action through the years.
And just to confirm, Nick's making good progress. I can see him now. He'll be here soon.
Oh, I'm so pleased. Why can't he catch the bus like everybody else? Which was the worst? Oh, Empire of the Ants was the worst. It sounds one night. The crew saw it. Oh, so you know.
Quite vicious, all of this. There's a really sort of nasty undercurrent going on. What's happening? Meet Street Ladies, tell us.
Anne Diamond, welcome to the GB News family.
Hello, dear. That was really quite something looking back all those years.
Well, Anne, you have done everything in broadcasting. Literally, you've interviewed everyone, all sorts of genres. So what attracts you to return to live breakfast telly? Because it's stressful, Anne. It's stressful. And also not good sleeping hours either.
I know, and apparently it involves getting up at 3 a.m. Oh, goodness, why didn't I remember that? I can't imagine why I said yes, but I tell you why. It's because it's a new channel. And it's interesting you say you've been on air 6 months and it's not exactly been easy. It's been turbulent. My goodness, that's what it was like in 1983 when we launched TV AM. Very turbulent. It's so funny that watching Dame Esther Ranson a minute ago, she was in TV AM before it even got off the ground. And then, quite wisely, she left actually before it sort of set off. And Ingrid Tarrant was one of the originals as well. And it was lovely to see them both. So, yeah, we had a rocky start at TV AM, but we pulled through in the end and became the most successful TV station in Britain at the time. And so all I can say is it's exciting to be part of something that's new, that's breaking new ground, that's got a new voice, because I think probably a new voice is needed in British television and radio at the moment. And so how can it not be exciting? And so when they said, look, come on, can you get up early at 3 o'clock or something and get into London and in the dark and do this programme, I thought, why not? Because Stephen is such a great mate of mine. We've known each other for a very long time. We get on extremely well. And we have very similar tastes in things. I'll tell you more about that later. But, and then they said, it's only for 8 weeks. And I thought, OK, I can do it for 8 weeks, I think, still.
Oh, I think it's going to be for longer than 8 weeks, Anne. We'll get you in and then you'll never want to leave. But look, you've obviously done so much over the past few years. Your Cot Death campaign has, of course, been a life-defining project. But you have never walked away from news. I mean, I've worked with you when you have been filling in on the Jeremy Vine show. So it's in your blood, isn't it, news? You love it.
Yes, I'm an old school journalist from that point of view. I've been a journalist for an extremely long time. And I've been brought up never to give your own opinion, but to you are the conduit for other people's opinions and views. And my job as an interviewer is to make them, allow them to enable them to be a star. And that's what I'm used to. And I think breakfast television is very well suited to that. You have to be a good journalist. You have to be able to ask the important, incisive questions. But in breakfast, you do it in a much friendlier, cosier fashion. You can still have a knife edge, or they used to call me a diamond sharp edge. But you do it in a much friendlier fashion with a cup of tea in your hand, usually.
That is true. That is true. What are the stories that you're most interested in covering at the moment, Anne? Because, of course, it is a turbulent time for this country.
Yeah. I know, and I do think that there is, whilst the pandemic has been so terrible and continues to be such a problem for society as a whole, on the globe as a whole, I think you also have to think of some of the positives. And I think it would be nice to reach out and tell people that there is a good side to what is happening to us. It has brought communities together. It's brought people together. It's enabled people to find strengths in themselves they never thought they had. More people are volunteering now than ever before, because it's brought back this sense of wanting to help others. And do you know, it's even good, it's been very, very good for hedgehogs.
How?
There you are. How? Because roadkill has gone down by 50% since we haven't been driving around so much. Can you believe it?
Oh my goodness, I had no idea. Well, good for hedgehogs, not good for human beings, but all right, we'll take that.
No.
And look, I think one of the things that is best about working at GB News is our family of viewers, because there's a lot of people who feel like they haven't had a voice in the mainstream broadcast media for some time. Do you get a sense of that?
I know what you mean, but I think that I just think what you're doing is giving people a bit more airtime. I mean, a lot of what you're doing on GB News is enabling people to ring in with their views, rather like a lot of radio stations do. So you are enabling their voices to be heard. And that's very, very important. And, you know, I think it's true that, and I think you probably agree with me, coming so much from the world of newspapers as you do, that journalism has gotten a bit lazy, and I think it needs a kick up the backside. And if that's what GB News wants to do to the whole journalistic community, then why not? By allowing people to have their voice, by saying to the bigger world that everybody has a right to free speech, and we all guard that very honestly. So as long as that's what GB News does, I think it's going to be very refreshing and you know, breath of fresh air. That's what new programmes and new TV channels are all about, surely.
I couldn't agree more. That is a perfect mission statement. So, Anne, when is your first day? When are you and Stephen together on the telly?
It's something like the weekend of the 7th and 8th, if I've got the dates right. Because Eamon's on the 4th, isn't he? And then
Eamon's on the 4th, yeah. I'm back on the 3rd.
The first weekend, yeah.
Eamon's on the 4th, so that's a Tuesday, 5th, 6th, so 7th or 8th.
4th,
okay.
5th, 6th, 7th.
Excellent.
Yeah, so it'll be the 8th and 9th, I think.
Excellent. Well, I cannot wait. Anne Diamond, welcome to the GB News family. I will be watching, and thank you for speaking to us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks.
Merry Christmas too. Coming up, after passing more outrageous COVID measures today, has the pandemic caused devolved dictators Nicola Sturgeon and Mark Drakeford to go mad with power? I'll ask the superstar panel in the Media Buzz. Plus, you'll get a first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. But after the break, is a landmark legal victory against non-crime hate incidents enough to save free speech? GB News star Darren Grimes went through a horrific ordeal after he was accused of committing one of these Orwellian acts. He'll be here next in The Outsider.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. Some brighter skies for some tomorrow before more cloud and rain arrives from the west. However, backtrack to this evening and high pressure still firmly in charge, as it has been for the last week or so. And what that means, calm conditions and a cold night. But it is waning towards the near continent, allowing milder air to come from the west and also bands of rain. And we'll see that as we head through into Christmas Day. For the time being, though, it's cold outside. Holes in the cloud will allow temperatures to plummet. A fairly widespread frost anywhere from Scotland, England and some parts of Wales. Away from Northern Ireland and the West Country, a keen breeze here, more clouds and temperatures holding up. But certainly it's going to be a frosty start to the day come Wednesday morning across many areas, but with some hazy sunshine, so some brighter skies. Through the morning, though, that cloud will eventually bring some rain to Northern Ireland, quite a fresh wind across Irish Sea coast, as the rain slowly pushes up towards the western parts of Scotland, clipping West Wales as well as the West Country. Drier skies to end the day further east, but temperatures will struggle here, 4, 5, 6 degrees Celsius. And through the evening, as the rain pushes across Scotland, it will turn to snow above around 300-400 metres and even some sleetiness at lower levels for a time. As some showers move in across England and Wales, and then more wet weather returns to Northern Ireland through the latter part of Wednesday night and into Thursday morning. However, the key feature of the weather as we head through Thursday, yes, there'll be quite windy in places, outbreaks of rain, but the temperatures will be a few degrees higher, certainly feeling milder across England and Wales and Northern Ireland. Still a lot of rain, though, just grinding to a halt across Scotland, and a keen breeze across the far north as more rain pushes in across Wales and the West Country later, and also that brisk wind. Temperatures here, double figures though, so not so bad, although the air will slowly get colder from the north as we head into Christmas, with a chance of some snow showers in the northeast.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Darren Grimes is tonight's outsider. To a rare victory for our freedoms, a retired copper has won a landmark court battle over a free speech victory after a visit from police to check his thinking on tweets was found to have breached his human rights. Homicide police were compared to the Gestapo in the High Court after they turned up at Harry Miller's workplace in January 2019 to warn him about his posts on transgender rights, despite the fact he hadn't actually broken the law. The judges said Harry's treatment could have a chilling effect on public debate. Speaking on GB News earlier today, he explained to Patrick and Mercy Moroki what happened.
Police turned up at my place of work and said they'd had a report that my Twitter activity had caused great distress and posed a danger to the trans community of Immingham Dock. I said, for instance, I tweeted, I was assigned mammal at birth, but I identify as fish. Don't misspecies me. And then I used a naughty word. Now, apparently, the logic of the police was that this was stage one in a 5-step journey through murder to genocide.
Now, Harry's tweets were recorded as a non-crime hate incident, which are events that don't leave you with a criminal record but stain your name and paint you as a suspect. One person who has suffered as a result of this malicious policy is brand new GB News presenter Darren Grimes, his non-crime, interviewing David Starkey on his channel Reasoned UK. Well, I'm pleased to say Darren joins me now. Does this ruling save free speech?
Dan, do you know what? I think it's really important to put it into context for viewers just how many of these things I think have been reported that we know of. From 2014 to 2019, there were 120,000 of these incidents that were recorded by police forces in England and Wales. 120,000, Dan. Now, you know as well as I do, living down there in Sadiq Khan's lawless London, that actually coincides with over, I think it's 900,000 domestic burglary investigations actually ending without a suspect being identified. You've had this happen to you, haven't you, Dan?
I've been mugged twice, and the police don't even investigate, but they can investigate these non-crime hate incidents. What the hell?
Exactly. That's the really, really shocking thing. And I mean, if I was to report you right now, Dan, and say, oh, I don't know, for example, you had said something about Newcastle United, and I said, I'm offended, and I report you to the police, Dan, you might not be arrested for anything because you've not committed any crime. But these Orwellian incidents actually mean that you have something against your name. So if, for example, you go into teaching as a profession, you have a deep background search in your background, that will come up, that incident will come up. There's one barrister, Sarah Phillimore, actually caught out for the very same reason, actually, as far as Harry Miller's concerned, which is getting involved in the trans debate, because this is used, Dan, as a tool to silence those voices of dissent that people don't like. It's used as a political tool to seek to silence people. Sarah Phillimore, the barrister, she did a subject access request on her name, and it came up saying that she had a non-crime hate incident against her name as a barrister who was posting hate. Now that could mean that she never works again. These things have real severe knock-on consequences, not just for free speech, but actually for, I think, malicious reporting, again, being used as a tool by the permanently offended to actually stifle debate and speech. And Dan, this is all at a time when we're supposed to have a conservative government, a law and order party, a Priti Patel, a robust Home Secretary. We've got all of this going on. College of Police and Guidance, meaning that the police are spending far too much time, a disproportionate amount of time, if you ask me, policing our tweets, and not enough time policing our streets. And that, to me, is a police force out of touch with the people's priorities, Dan. That's where I'm at.
Very good point. Darren Grimes, thank you so much, and thank you for being a part of this show all year.
And Merry Christmas. It's a fantastic show. Honestly, I've enjoyed it so much, Dan, so well done. Very well done.
Thank you, Darren. We'll talk in 2022. It's just after 10 o'clock, still to come. After cancelling New Year's and introducing fines for people working from home respectively, have Scotland's Nicola Sturgeon and Welsh First Minister Mark Drakeford gone totally mad on power? Plus, as the Queen changes her Christmas plans and lockdown fanatics urge Boris to put further restrictions on our lives, how should the UK learn to live with COVID long term? I'll debate those topics with my superstar panel in the Media Buzz. And who is 2021's ultimate Greatest Britain and Union jackass? I'll be counting down the top 10 nominations from all the panellists who've graced my sofa this year before revealing who they put at number one. Let me tell you, I think both are deserving winners. You don't want to miss that. Don't go anywhere. It's coming up in the next half hour. Also, I'll bring you a first look at tomorrow's papers next and throughout the rest of the show too. But first, the news at 10 with Polly Middlehurst.
Dan, thank you. Good evening. The Prime Minister has confirmed today that Christmas can go ahead as planned in England. Boris Johnson has ruled out tougher restrictions before the 25th of December. The Prime Minister says there's still uncertainty about hospital admission rates and the severity of the Omicron variant of coronavirus. He says the government will continue to monitor the situation very closely and may bring in measures after Christmas.
Naturally, we can't rule out any further measures after Christmas, and we're going to keep a constant eye on the data. But in view of the continuing uncertainty about several things, severity of Omicron, uncertainty about the hospitalisation rate or the impact of the vaccine rollout and the boosters, we don't think today that there is enough evidence to justify any tougher measures before Christmas.
Well, in Scotland, the First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, has announced that from Boxing Day, all outdoor events will be limited to just 500 people. That's going to be for a period of 3 weeks to help slow down the spread of the Omicron variant in Scotland. She confirmed that also means the cancellation of Edinburgh's world-famous Hogmanay Street Party at New Year, and that football matches will also become effectively spectator-free. She also stressed that advice for Christmas Day still stands as before, but that family gatherings should be kept as small and as safe as possible.
At a time when these services are already under severe pressure and also dealing with high staff absences, limiting large-scale events will help them focus on delivering essential services to the public. So I would ask the public, despite the disappointment I know this decision will generate, to please understand the reasons for it.
£1 billion is being made available by the Treasury to support businesses most impacted by the Omicron variant spreading across the UK. It's going to include a £6,000 grant for hospitality and leisure firms in England. The government's also going to cover statutory sick pay for those who test positive or have to self-isolate. However, some industry leaders have criticised the funding as inadequate. Labour has welcomed the measures but said they should have been introduced earlier. Away from COVID, the man accused of fatally stabbing Sir David Amess and charged with terrorism offences has pleaded not guilty. The Conservative MP was killed during a constituency surgery in Essex in October. 25-year-old Ali Harbi Ali is charged with his murder and with preparing acts of terrorism between May 2019 and September of this year. A full trial will be held in March. The Metropolitan Police is being accused of aiding and abetting a criminal offence over its handling of an alleged Downing Street Christmas party in December last year. The Met's under investigation now by the Independent Office for Police Conduct after an official complaint. Baroness Jones of Mouselcombe claims officers guarding Downing Street deliberately failed to enforce the law. Officials and advisers are alleged to have made speeches, drunk wine, and even exchanged Secret Santa gifts at the event during the lockdown in London. That's all from me. Now back to Dan Wootton.
Tomorrow's news tonight now in our Media Buzz. Let's kick off with the very first look at the front pages hot off the press. Christmas can go ahead, leads the Metro. This follows the Prime Minister's announcement this evening that there will be no further COVID curbs before December the 25th, but he did hint at a New Year's clampdown instead. Of course he did. Also on the front page, the story of Britain's biggest divorce payout as Dubai's ruler, Sheikh Mohammed, is ordered to pay his wife, or his ex-wife, £554 million after a UK court heard that he terrified her. The Eye also follows the news that Christmas is happening, but new restrictions could be implemented after the weekend if London's daily hospitalisations from COVID remain below 400. The Prime Minister may hold off imposing more restrictions after December the 25th. But the paper reports there is pressure on Number 10 after Sturgeon announced stricter message in Scotland today. We'll come to that in just a moment. I have a lot to say about it. The Independent leads with an exclusive report that Boris Johnson's Cabinet Secretary misled officials over the party's row. Britain's top civil servant Simon Case stepped down as head of the investigation into the Downing Street party allegations, but before he recused himself, he reportedly assured colleagues he had no knowledge of lockdown-breaking parties. Oh, bored of this story. But the thing is, if they had never made any of these ridiculous restrictions law, they wouldn't be in this sorry situation. My sparkling superstar panel back with me for the final time this year. It is the Daily Star columnist Dawn Neeson, the Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson and the political commentator Esther Kraku. Well, Nicola Sturgeon has been adamant that she won't cancel Christmas, but she had no such qualms about giving Hogmanay the heave-ho. Edinburgh's New Year street party was culled as part of tough new COVID rules announced by the First Minister this afternoon, which come into force from Boxing Day, Groundhog Day, folks, and they're set to last for at least 3 weeks.
For indoor standing events, the limit will be 100. For indoor seated events, it will be 200. And for outdoor events, at 500 seated or standing. Physical distancing of 1 metre will be required at events that go ahead within these limits. This will, of course, make sports matches, including football, effectively spectator-free. Large-scale Hogmanay celebrations, including that planned here in our capital city, will not proceed. A requirement for table service only will be reintroduced for venues serving alcohol for consumption on the premises. Stay at home as much as is feasible. When you do go out, maintain physical distancing from people not in your own group.
Imagine liking her. Don't get it. Anyway, she insisted these rules had to be introduced.
I want to underline why we think this difficult decision is necessary. Firstly, we know that the much higher transmissibility of Omicron means large gatherings have the potential to become very rapid super spreader events, putting large numbers at risk of getting infected very quickly. Limiting these events helps reduce the risk of widespread transmission.
Let me tell you, Omicron hysteria has truly gripped the devolved nations, with Welsh First Minister Mark Drakeford signing off on fines for people not working from home. Individuals risk being fined £60 if they enter the office when they could feasibly do their jobs from home, most likely in their underwear, watching Loose Women and not doing much work. We know that's how it goes. And employers who repeatedly fail to allow their staff to work from home could be fined up to £10,000. Now, a spokesman for the Welsh Government insisted the measure would limit the spread of the virus and protect public health. Calvin Robinson, I literally feel like Drakeford and Sturgeon are drunk on power. What I don't understand is why the fine Scottish people, the fine Welsh people are accepting this, because in the case of the Scots, Calvin, this is Sturgeon essentially killing off the pub. It's extraordinary.
You're right, but who's saying they are accepting it? The problem with our democratic process is we won't get a say for another 3 or 4 years, so we won't get to battle against them. And without any opposition fighting our corner as the lowly people, without anyone holding them to account, as Esther said, who's going to do the job of democracy for us?
Esther, it is astonishing that it's now going to be illegal in Scotland to walk up to a bar to order a drink. I genuinely thought we were past this nonsensical rubbish.
I'm going to say something that may or may not be a bit controversial. I don't think the COVID powers should extend to the devolved powers. So what I'm saying is if sort of local, sort of Welsh or Scottish governments can effectively bankrupt their local economies, Westminster shouldn't have to pay for it. COVID policy should have been blanket, which means we should have given people in Scotland and Wales a chance. It should have been a national... Because the thing is, it's a national burden, right? All the debt we're taking on is a national burden. All the repercussions from destroying businesses, which is effectively what she's doing in Scotland, is a national problem. Everything that's going on in Wales...
She doesn't care, does she?
She doesn't care, but she shouldn't have that power.
I mean, Esther, are you almost going as far to saying, believe me, I have suggested this before, so I don't think it's controversial. Sturgeon and Drakeford actually want to destroy the economy because it is good for them politically.
That wouldn't surprise me. But I genuinely don't believe they should have that power to do that. I think devolved powers should not get a say in COVID policy, because if these are emergency powers and it's a war against COVID, it's a national war. It should be national blanket policy. We should all make these decisions, because you can't bankrupt Edinburgh and Cardiff and expect Westminster to pay for it. I'm sorry.
These devolved governments don't really have many powers, do they? And COVID is one area that they do.
Yeah, and that's why
they've got the executive power and they're making the most of it. They're loving it.
Yeah, because, Dawn, there's a big political thing here. Drakeford and Sturgeon loved taking the spotlight at their daily press conferences. But the thing is, Dawn, actually, I just get so frustrated. I get so frustrated because I can't see how enforcing these sort of draconian restrictions on a population can increase their popularity. I don't get it.
I don't understand it either. I mean, I think there are people that have been so terrified by the deliberate anxiety policies that we've had that they really are just willing to go along with everything now and believing everything they're told.
And they're competing, aren't they? That's the issue. So Boris does something. It actually doesn't matter how far Boris goes.
No.
You know Sturgeon and Drakeford are always going to go one step further.
It really is a competition to the bottom, isn't it, with these two? It's incredible.
Pathetic.
You know, Dan, of all the mad things I've heard over the past 21 months, the maddest today came out of Wales, where Drakeford is going to literally fine people for going to work.
£60. But can you see how unenforceable that is? Because you could tie it up in the courts. If you got fined for going to work, right, you could make an argument that, I don't know, there's too much noise in your house. And if you can't prove that, you could say, oh, it affected my mental health. And the courts will be tied up with this crap for months.
This is truly dystopian, though, isn't it? Because there are loads of reasons why people wouldn't feel they could work from home. And that has to be a personal choice.
Of course it has to be a personal choice, but all of these decisions are just made up ad hoc. There's never any evidence to suggest that they work, any of these measures. And people are going along with it because the trusted news network means that mainstream media is hyping it.
Well, of course, but like if you just look at it practically, though, Dawn, in theory, we could do this show from all of our homes. It would be crap. It would be rubbish. And we don't want to have to do that because we are not at serious threat of dying from COVID. So we will not. And this is what I mean about risk and having to balance up and weigh up those risks. And in Wales, that doesn't exist.
I mean, Drakeford in particular, I know Sturgeon sort of like is in competition with him, but Drakeford in particular, he was the one that, you know, when this started last year, taped off certain aisles of supermarkets. Yeah. Because COVID obviously is going to go for you if you're shopping for sanitary products, but not if you're buying
But unfortunately, throughout this pandemic, they have both received electoral mandates, Drakeford and Sturgeon. So I feel very, very sorry for the Scottish and Welsh people who are against these two lunatics who have to put up with them. But unfortunately, they're going to continue this because I think that adds to their popularity. Now, Mrs. Recollections may vary. Meghan Markle got a taste of her own medicine when meeting a fibbing fan. I love this. A hilarious clip of Irish royal enthusiast Laura Ann Barr meeting the Duchess of Sussex, who last month apologised for misleading a court after claiming she forgot she instructed an aide to brief the authors of that awful hagiography, Finding Freedom. I mean, that has to be the biggest porky pie of the year. It's gone viral, this clip, after Laura Ann admitted lying to her idol's face about a lovely bunch of flowers.
Nice to meet you as well. Flowers for you. Oh my goodness. Nice to meet you. Congratulations, Laura Ann. Laura Ann, thank you. Those are so pretty from your garden. Yeah. Oh my goodness, how sweet. I love that. Welcome to that. Thank you for thinking of me. That's really, really kind.
I actually completely understand why she did that, because Meghan asked such a direct question and caught her off guard. What, she could hardly say, oh, no, I picked them up at Tesco. Have a look again.
Nice to meet you as well. Flowers for you. Oh my goodness. Nice to meet you. Congratulations, Laura Ann. Laura Ann, thank you. Those are so pretty from your garden. Yeah. Oh my goodness, how sweet. I love that. Welcome to that. Thank you for thinking of me. That's really, really kind.
God, she's insincere, isn't she? Sorry, Meghan. We don't all have £11 million mansions with 7.5 acres of grounds to grow lovely flowers in. What a deluded human being. Dawn Neeson, Calvin Robinson, Esther Crack, who do stand by, because coming up, as even the Queen bows to COVID, how should the UK learn to live with COVID in the long term? My superstar panel thrashes that out as the media buzz continues, and we'll bring you more of tomorrow's newspaper front pages hot off the press too. And who is Ed Sheeran and Elton John's surprising competition for this year's Christmas #1? We'll bring you an update on all the runners and riders after the break.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. Some brighter skies for some tomorrow before more cloud and rain arrives from the west. However, backtrack to this evening and high pressure still firmly in charge, as it has been for the last week or so. And what that means, calm conditions and a cold night. But it is waning towards the near continent, allowing milder air to come from the west and also bands of rain. And we'll see that as we head through into Christmas Day. For the time being, though, it's cold outside. Holes in the cloud will allow temperatures to plummet. A fairly widespread frost anywhere from Scotland, England and some parts of Wales. Away from Northern Ireland and the West Country, a keen breeze here, more clouds and temperatures holding up. But certainly it's going to be a frosty start to the day come Wednesday morning across many areas, but with some hazy sunshine, so some brighter skies. Through the morning, though, that cloud will eventually bring some rain to Northern Ireland, quite a fresh wind across Irish Sea coast, as the rain slowly pushes up towards the western parts of Scotland, clipping West Wales as well as the West Country. Drier skies to end the day further east, but temperatures will struggle here, 4, 5, 6 degrees Celsius. And through the evening, as the rain pushes across Scotland, it will turn to snow above around 300-400 metres and even some sleetiness at lower levels for a time. As some showers move in across England and Wales, and then more wet weather returns to Northern Ireland through the latter part of Wednesday night and into Thursday morning. However, the key feature of the weather as we head through Thursday, yes, there'll be quite windy in places, outbreaks of rain, but the temperatures will be a few degrees higher, certainly feeling milder across England and Wales and Northern Ireland. Still a lot of rain, though, just grinding to a halt across Scotland, and a keen breeze across the far north as more rain pushes in across Wales and the West Country later, and also that brisk wind. Temperatures here, double figures though, so not so bad, although the air will slowly get colder from the north as we head into Christmas, with a chance of some snow showers in the northeast.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Join us for Political Correction. We're here every Sunday to correct politics and put you, the people, back in charge.
We talk about all areas of the United Kingdom, including Northern Ireland.
Our debate goes way beyond the Westminster Village. It's about the real country. It's about your opinion. So please, we want you to tell us what you think.
This is Political Correction.
Every Sunday morning from 10 a.m. here on GB News.
You're watching GB News live across the UK, the world, and our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We're here for you. Don't forget to join our community by hitting the subscribe button.
And download the GB News app so you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you. Email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
The ultimate greatest Britain and Union jackass of 2021 is going to be revealed in just a moment. Believe me, you don't want to miss this. But first, let's return to tomorrow's news tonight in the Media Buzz. More front pages have just been delivered. The Guardian continue to lead on the story that the Prime Minister has ruled out further curbs on Christmas socialising, but the paper reports this could mean tougher measures may be announced after the Christmas weekend, despite tentative signs that cases have begun to plateau. And the hospitality industry, my goodness, it breaks my heart, actually, the poor hospitality industry, because you walk around any city at the moment and all the pubs, all the restaurants are completely empty. And they've warned that the £1 billion announced by Rishi Sunak today is too little, too late, with firms calling for furlough to be brought back for the hardest hit. That isn't the answer either. Let me tell you what the answer is. No more restrictions. Glad timings for Christmas, but perhaps not New Year. That's the lead on tomorrow's Daily Telegraph, as they also report that Boris has finally ended days of speculation about possible Christmas restrictions. Also on the front page, a glimpse into the illogical and nonsensical nature of COVID restrictions. As we just discussed, Welsh may still visit the pub, but face £60 fine if they dare go to work. Can I just tell you, Mark Drakeford, history is not going to judge you kindly for this. Because believe me, in a few years' time, people are going to look back at this era and talk about how mad leaders like you and Nicola Sturgeon were. Let me bring in tonight's superstar panel, though, the Daily Star columnist Dawn Neeson, the Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson and political commentator Esther Kraku. After creating an atmosphere of festive dread greater than the GBNews office the morning after our Christmas party, Boris Johnson threw the nation a bone today by confirming there would be no new COVID restrictions, as we just saw on the front of The Guardian. Thanks for that, Boris, but the dithering, the overselling of the threat posed by Omicron and the clear message that more restrictions could be ushered in before we've even taken down the tree may have already encouraged folk to abandon their Christmas plans. Even our beloved and stoic Queen, facing her first Christmas without her husband of 73 years, the late Prince Philip, opted to cancel her traditional Sandringham trip, despite previous reports that she was adamant about holding firm in the face of the virus. So Calvin Robinson, as even the Queen changes her plans, and it feels like she's not been allowed to learn to live with the virus, how do we need to start approaching things long term? Because I understand why the Queen did what she did, although my preference would have been for her to actually say, no, I want to host this gathering. I will host this gathering. I understand why she didn't, Calvin, because it would have looked as if the Queen was making a political statement. But I don't think living your life is a political statement.
No, I know. I do appreciate what Her Majesty did. She took personal responsibility and decided on her own that she wasn't going to host these events. And I think that's what we all should do. We should take personal responsibility, judge up the risks for ourselves, for our families, and make our own decisions. The problem is the nudge unit and the government's Project Fear has made everyone so afraid that when they do finally get their own decision-making back from the government, that they're going to make, the decision based on fear.
Because, Esther, the problem is people are absolutely paranoid at the moment, and they're not paranoid, they're not nervous about catching COVID. They're nervous about testing positive on a lateral flow test. That would mean they can't see their family, they can't see their loved ones over the festive period. But also, Esther, they are not able to work in some cases, which can be financially devastating. It's not a fear of the virus anymore. It's a fear of the lunacy around the virus.
When you start being scared of the government and government policy, that's when you know things have really just gone insane, because you are actually telling the government, you're letting the government decide what you can and cannot do for your life. This is not about COVID anymore, because it's clear that this is not working. All these border restrictions, all these get tested 10 times a day, all of these things are not, especially for a variant that's milder. Why are people not celebrating this? Why is there not riots? Why
Well, I
people
think
not jumping around
sane
in the
people are,
streets?
because Dawn Neeson, we had another one of our superstar panellists, Carol Malone, on the panel last night. Sorry, she wasn't on the panel because she's isolating. She was in a segment via Zoom last night. And Carol had been quite nervous and scared about COVID. She says herself she's an overweight, 60-something asthmatic. And she is absolutely celebrating Omicron. She says this is the greatest thing to happen because she didn't even feel anything more than a tiny bit of fatigue.
Well, this is the problem. We are not, we've all just said, we are not scared of the virus anymore. We're scared of the consequences around it. So many people have cancelled their pre-Christmas plans because they're terrified of testing positive and not being able to see their loved ones this Christmas. But, the Queen is right. She has made a decision based on her life and her family, and I think that's what we've all got to do this Christmas. You make sensible, grown-up decisions about yourself and your loved ones.
And of course, and if you are 95 years old and potentially at a high risk from COVID, of course you should take serious precautions, and everyone around you should. But I've never walked away from that.
You make those decisions yourself, Dan.
Absolutely.
You do not need the likes of Boris Johnson and Chris Whitty to tell you how to live your lives anymore.
Now, even for a race that has seen Bob the Builder go head-to-head with Eminem and the Teletubbies fight the Spice Girls, this year's battle for Christmas #1 is an odd one indeed. And that's because in the midweek update, Ed Sheeran and Sir Elton John are facing stiff competition from well, themselves. So let me explain. Sharon and John have been #1 for the past 2 weeks with a song called Merry Christmas, which, in case you need reminding, goes a little like this. But as things stand, Merry Christmas has been trailing Sausage Rolls for Everyone, the latest offering by YouTube sensation Lad Baby, which, wait for it, sounds just like the same song because it also features Ed Sheeran and Elton John. Now, if either song tops the chart on Christmas Eve, it will be Ed's second Christmas #1 after Perfect in 2017. And believe it or not, Elton's first. Lad Baby, meanwhile, and this is something I just can't believe, will become the first artist ever to score 4 consecutive Christmas #1s. I'm sorry, I don't get this guy. I know the song is raising money for charity and that's wonderful, but it just feels wrong to me that he should beat a record held by music legends like the Beatles and the Spice Girls. Also in the running, by the way, for Christmas #1, and you can never rule out the old classics, is Wham's Last Christmas. That's at #3 at the moment. The festive classic finally topped the charts on New Year's Day, 36 years after its release, but has never been Christmas #1. Neither has the track currently at #4 on the charts. I know this is Esther Kraku's favourite. Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You, which is set which actually has set the record for the most weeks spent in the top 40 before reaching #1 when it finally achieved pole position after 26 years last December. Rounding out the top 5, a novelty song about Boris Johnson, whose name is too rude to spell out here, but let's just say it's a sentiment I fear some voters and 100 Tory rebels will probably agree with. Dawn Neeson, Calvin Robertson, Esther Kraku, do stand by because coming up, who is in line to be crowned the greatest Briton of 2021? A game-changing sports star? A duchess, maybe? Or possibly even a Tory rebel? And who is the ultimate union jackass? Maybe a politician, a royal, or a bunch of smelly, road-blocking hippies. You know who I mean. I'll tot up the nominations from every single panellist who sat on my sofa this year and reveal the results straight after the break.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
And we have a Greatest Britain Union Jackass special for you tonight. And to mark the occasion, just like at number 10 Downing Street, we have some cheese and wine to accompany this work meeting, OK? It is a work meeting here in the studio. Cheers, folks. It has been a long year.
So about the agenda I sent you, Dan, I'd just like to go through the minutes.
We've got an agenda, Dawn. This is a very serious work meeting, actually, because our production assistant, the brilliant Matthew Bell, has painstakingly compiled a list of all the Greatest Britain and Union jackasses from this year's show, nominated by our superstar panel every night, and he's made it into the ultimate top 10 list of the most nominations. So, my superstar panel back with me, it's Dawn Neeson, Calvin Robinson, Esther Krakow, of course, and let's start with the Greatest Britain at number 10 for 2021. Calvin Robinson, it's the Conservative MP, the freedom fighter, the brilliant Steve Baker.
This is the next Prime Minister of Great Britain. This is the Spartan, the Thatcherite.
God's ears.
Thank you. One of the rebels who voted against the vaccine certificates, and he is a Conservative way forward, supporter of liberty, and in his words, enough is enough.
Dawn Neeson at number 9. It is the Duchess of Cambridge. Kate Middleton.
That's Esther's.
Oh, Esther, sorry.
Yes,
It's an easy mistake
I nominated
to make.
her for like 4 weeks straight, honestly. Why? Because she's everything that Meghan Markle is not. Enough said.
That is enough said. She's in the list because she's not Meghan
Markle.
Not Meghan Markle.
At number 8, our 8th Greatest Britain this year, this might surprise some people, the Health Secretary Sajid Javid.
Ew.
Dawn, he got a lot of nominations when he had replaced Matt Hancock and was promising that he was going to be a freedom fighter too.
Yeah, well, he's basically on the list because he's not Matt Hancock. So for the same reasoning,
That's
basically.
not a very high bar.
Well, exactly. Yeah, well, ask the mistress about that one. But no, I mean, he's on the list because he promised to be a freedom fighter, and he's sort of gone a bit back on that now. He's the biggest supporter of lockdown, isn't he? But he's also on my list as well because he revoked the citizenship of Shamima Begum when he was Home Secretary.
Yes, that was a good move. At number 7, in terms of this year's Greatest Britain, it is Lewis Hamilton. Calvin Robinson, what did you make of this choice?
He's clearly on the wrong list. There are no... there are no Beckers or Benjamins on the panel tonight, I'm afraid.
The lefties sometimes continue this list.
Yeah. Well, he's a knee-taking, ladies' clothes-wearing wokester. That's all I can say about him.
So Calvin's really backing his insertion. At number 6 of our Greatest Britain countdown, it is Adele.
This is actually confusing for me because what has she done this year other than airing her 6-year-old son's trauma? In her
She did release a new album, Esther, and that great song Easy on Me. I like that, but I do agree she went...
I don't play... You know how I feel about Adele's music. It's sad single girl music. All you single girls out there, stop listening to Adele, OK? That is why you're single. You're moving around with that negative, getting played energy. Don't embrace getting played energy.
OK, well, let's see if we can support...
This is going so well, isn't it?
Who is at number 5 on our list. This is a bit of a surprise. The former Prime Minister, Theresa May. Dawn, she probably would have been the greatest union jackass a few years ago, but she's turned things around with her brilliant position this year on lockdowns. She's against them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I thought she wouldn't be on my list, but she is purely for that one speech she made in the House where she stood up in Parliament saying it was time to stop running away from COVID, start facing up to it, start living with it. I mean, she actually spoke like a proper Prime Minister.
At number 4 of the ultimate Greatest Britain for 2021, it's a group of people, the England football team, Calvin Robinson. Now, they did divide opinion when they insisted on taking the knee, but throughout the Euros, they did rally the nation.
What a good bunch of lads. In fact, the last time we were drinking on the show was when we were here to support them.
Cheers,
during the Euros.
And we came so damn close.
They temporarily united the nation, and that's something we should all celebrate.
OK, we're into the top 3. These are the biggies now. Our 3rd Greatest Britain for 2021 is J.K. Rowling. Esther Krakow, explain why.
Now, I say this as someone who's never read Harry Potter or seen it.
Likewise.
I have no interest. But she has actually stood her ground. She's actually stood her ground this year, and I've been so impressed, even with all the death threats, with all the ridiculous invasions of privacy, by all these, loving people of the cause.
Hashtag be kind.
I know. She has actually stood up for women. And I know this is something very rare that we see these days, even though these activists claim to stand up for women. She's actually stood up for women. She's basically said sex is real, biology is real, and we should stop degrading women and all the things that they go through to be part of this politically correct nonsense. And
people with cervixes.
Exactly. So.
And it's fascinating for me. I've never been a fan of J.K. Rowling. In fact, a column that I wrote criticising her led to a massive court battle with Johnny Depp. But I've had huge respect for the way that she has stood her ground this year. And shame on the woke Hollywood elite who have turned their back on J.K. Rowling because she stood up for the rights of women everywhere.
Shame on the people she made a success. They've all left her behind.
Indeed.
Yeah, spot little brat.
It's terrible, isn't it? And number 2. On our list of greatest Britons for 2021, it is Emma Radacano, and she came from nowhere this year, Dawn, and rallied the country behind her.
Well, quite literally. Obviously won the US Open, becoming the first British woman to win a Grand Slam singles title since Virginia Wade in 1977. And she also has just won Sports Personality of the Year on the grounds that she's actually got a personality as well, which really helps.
Yeah, I really like her. I'm not a big
she's
tennis fan.
feisty and she's a good example for youngsters, she says, looking nervously down the sofa, to actually go for their dreams.
No, very good point. Well, now the moment to reveal the ultimate greatest Briton of 2021. Have a look at this. Carol, your greatest Briton.
No apologies, it's the Queen.
Her Majesty the Queen.
And my greatest Briton is the Queen, but the Queen...
The Queen?
Isn't the Queen? My greatest Briton is the Queen. The greatest Briton, obviously, come on, we all deep down agree, don't we? It's always the Queen. It's the Queen. Of course it's the Queen. And we want her back fighting fit, so look after yourself, Mum.
No, she didn't make this year's Remembrance Day service, but she has for the 63 others she's attended in her 69 years. Can I just say as well, when crowds realised she wasn't coming, they started to sing God Save the Queen even louder than they ever have before. That was singing for her to be there.
My greatest Briton is the Queen, because while Jacinda Ardern shut down New Zealand for one COVID case, when the Queen had one COVID case at Balmoral, she keeps calm and carries on her holiday.
For the way that she has dealt with the onslaught from Harry and Meghan constantly. I think her stoicism particularly is extremely admirable.
Benjamin Butterworth, you are going to annoy me with this choice. Your Union Jackass, how dare you?
My Union Jackass is the Queen.
Oh.
And the reason...
No, impossible. Impossible. What could she possibly have done?
She has been helping to fund Prince Andrew's legal battles ever since the Emily Maitlis interview.
You shouldn't be allowed to say this.
He has free speech on GB News, but we also all have the right to say this bloke is a loser for saying this.
My greatest Briton is the Queen, not just because she's the Queen, but because she's been such a trooper over the last few days and weeks. And we've seen how busy her schedule has been, despite the fact that she's 95 years old. And I think she's pretty much an inspiration to us all.
I have chosen the Queen. She's showing that some things are about the team, some things are bigger than a person, and young people could learn a lot from the Queen because she's dedicated to something that's even bigger than her, and
God
that's the
save
country.
the Queen.
She's still going strong, despite that walking stick at 95 years old, and she looked brilliant today, and she brings us all so much happiness, and it's going to take much more than a little problem with her leg to stop her going and fulfilling her duty as our Queen. Oh, it had to be. Let's toast to the Queen. What a 2021 she has had, Cole.
God save the Queen.
God save the Queen. And look, I've got her with me today, actually.
Oh, my
because Luke Ridley on our social media team, as my little Christmas present. Look at that. Perfect choice for me. I adore it. I absolutely adore it. So the Queen is with me tonight. Can I just say, and you know, I believe in freedom of speech, but come on, Benjamin Butterworth choosing the Queen
no comment, mate.
as his Union Jackass.
Treason.
Esther.
Treasonous.
Exactly.
Treasonous.
You were on that panel and you were
I gave him
horrified.
such daggers. I was like, how dare you?
What was his reason?
How dare you?
I think it was because she had been reported to have helped Prince Andrew's legal fund. But, you know, come on.
okay.
She's the Queen. I think we've got a list of all of the top 10 then. The top 10, there they are, our greatest Britons for 2021. Congratulations
There are a few
to
people
you
that really
all.
are
But
lost.
this is the list now that you don't want to get. The Union Jackasses. And who will be the ultimate Union Jackass for 2021? Well, at number 10, Bad news, it's the Deputy Prime Minister, Dominic Raab. Calvin, he's done some good things this year, but I think this was because of the Afghanistan situation when he stayed on holiday, right?
I think it's because of, he's similar to Dan Wootton and Julie Hartley-Brewer, that he likes to take a lot of holidays. That's what it was.
And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Nothing wrong with that.
But he did own Claudia Webb, which was fantastic. In fact, he owned her twice. It's really good to see.
At number 9, it is London's failed Mayor Sadiq Khan. Esther, he has had an absolutely appalling year.
Has he ever had a good one?
Probably.
I mean, where do we begin? With all the unaccounted figures for his housing policy, which I'm still waiting to hear, he has just made London unlivable. The TfL doesn't work. I mean, it's broke, right? All these congestion charge measures, it's just horrible. He's just made London unlivable. It's horrible. I can't even believe he's still mayor. There should be some way to, like, just retire him early. I'd actually pay him to stop.
Yes, please quit.
Yeah, exactly.
Please quit, Sadiq. Get out. This is a confusing one, Dawn Neeson, because at number 8, it is the Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, who, of course, also featured on the list of Greatest Britain. So what happened there?
Well, and I get them both times, so thanks for this one. I mean, Sajid Javid, it was easy. I mean, yeah. Right, OK, so basically, he has gone back on being a freedom fighter and saying we need to live with COVID, who suddenly wanted to lock us all down. He is one of the cabinet members who are going, no, we need tougher restrictions, we need them now, and taking away our Christmas.
Oh, indeed. I think it was that change that has found
it has to be, doesn't it? I mean, it was like...
Now it's only him and Michael Gove, really, within the cabinet who are campaigning for more restrictions. It's a real shame, actually, because I had high hopes for Sajid Javid. At number 7, the Education Secretary, Nadim Zahawi. Now, again, Calvin, this will surprise a lot of people because I actually think Zahawi did a really good job rolling out the vaccine as vaccine minister. But I think the reason he has found his way onto this list was because he promised a whole load of people, including me, on the record, that vaccine passports would never come into law in the UK. And Calvin, by the end of 2021, what do we have? Vaccine passports.
Absolutely. He promised everyone there would be no such thing as vaccine passports. He stood up in the Houses of Parliament and said the very same thing. He spoke to a lot of professional journalists like yourself, said the same thing, and now he's promoting them as a necessity. It's one of the biggest hypocrites in our government. The founder of YouGov as well, let's not forget.
At number 6, I'm disappointed he's not higher, if I'm totally honest.
I know.
It's
I don't know how
of no opposition, Keir Starmer. Esther Kraku.
To be fair, he does have tough competition.
Bugger all this year, right?
He does have tough competition. Does he know his job?
No.
Does he know what the leader of the opposition means?
No.
Does he know what the opposition is?
No.
That's all I'm going to say. He doesn't know what his job is. He doesn't know what he stands for. I don't think he knows what country he's...
He knows what offence is. He likes sitting on them.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I'm surprised
OK, well, look, we're into the top 5 now. These are our top 5 union jackasses of 2021. And my favourite First Minister of Scotland, Scheming Sturgeon, comes in at number 5, Dawn.
And well-deserved as well. I mean, power-crazed, poisoned dwarf from north of the border, isn't she? Looks like a cranky by nature, and is determined to go down as the person that single-handedly saved Scotland from... That was terrible, wasn't it? From COVID. Meanwhile, ignoring all the problems that she has. The country's bankrupt, worst drugs problem in Europe. But basically, she's in competition with Boris Johnson. Build the wall.
She has the convenience of not having to pay for any of it.
Well, quite. Build the wall, but just make sure it's built round her.
At number 4, it is the Duke of Woke, Prince Harry. And Calvin Robinson, I think 2021 will go down as the most shameful year in this young man's life because he decided to trash his family as his grandfather lay dying in hospital. Even now, Calvin, it makes me viscerally angry.
Well, it's the opposite of a glow-up because he was the nation's lad. Everyone loved him.
Glow-up.
And he got with this woman. And what's the polite word of saying cuckolded? I don't know how to describe what he is right now, but it's not nice
voluntary
to see.
castration? I don't know. I really, there's no other word for it. I mean...
There's a couple of things I can think of that are not polite to say on television. But Dawn Neeson, it was just...
I was going to say them, actually, but I said...
No,
sorry.
Dawn, we were mentioning the word on the break. Let's not go there. But Dawn Neeson, it was such an appalling dereliction of respect for Her Majesty the Queen.
Oh, it's just the ultimate insult. You know, in the year she lost her husband,
Who's she worrying about? This bloke?
Yeah, she has to deal with. I mean, obviously she's got the whole Andrew issue going on as well, but Harry was her favourite. And he's just treated her so appallingly. And, all right, she's the Queen, OK. But she's also a grandmother and a mother, and she was a wife who'd lost her husband. She needed so much more, not just respect, Dan, but love.
Well, shame on him, because, of course, it's not going to get any better in 2022, given he is penning an autobiography where he's expected to trash his family even more. I've never seen, actually, such a fall from grace. One man going from being so universally popular to so widely loathed.
That's what marrying the wrong woman can do to you. I'm just going to put it there.
You know what? My husband says exactly the same
seriously.
thing.
Absolutely.
I'm adamant. If my brother brings home Meghan Markle or someone, I'm just like, that is the door.
Let's head to the top 3 of our ultimate union jackass for 2021. And at number 3, it is those eco-terrorists of Insulate Britain. And Esther Krakow, you know how angry I got about this mob throughout the year.
The most confused lot Britain has ever seen. Can I just give a shout out to that lady that pushed her Range Rover?
Oh, Sherilyn, who's now been charged.
Charged? What? With what?
Assault. Which is just outrageous, but we can't talk about it because
it's a live court case, but I mean...
I know. It does give me some hope, though, that some of these Insulate Britain eco-terrorists will be spending Christmas behind bars, because, all year I was campaigning for all of them to be locked up. Not because you can't peacefully protest, but because they were putting our lives in danger.
They were risking lives, and they don't even know what they're campaigning for. They don't know. They don't know the first thing about insulating a house. It's like tens of thousands of pounds. No, it's like 600 quid at B&Q, mate. And just glue them in their cells. Don't ever let them out.
And if you saw interviews with them, they all sounded like they had mental health issues. I was so convinced that every single one of them should have been in the psychiatric.
We had that bloke on the show, Liam Norton.
My God.
And he couldn't understand why I was so shocked that he hadn't bothered to insulate his own home.
I know.
He didn't get it. It was just very bizarre.
He walked out on me twice. I'm starting to think it's a bit personal.
The biggest fan.
At number 2 in our list of the ultimate union jackass for 2021, it is the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. Well, Esther, you say he should be number 1. He did good things, he did bad things this year, right?
What are the good things? Could you remind me?
Yeah, what's the good things?
Well, look,
You had some cheese and wine.
I don't know.
It was a business meeting. Come on, we're having one here.
Calvin, look, Boris could and maybe still should be a great Prime Minister. He's the bloke who delivered
it's too late.
Brexit.
It's time for him to go. I've never felt more betrayed in my life. I fought hard for this guy to get into power. This is a guy who said he stands for civil liberties. This is a guy who said he stands for low taxation, the free market. This is a guy who said he was a libertarian, a conservative. He's gone back on every single thing that he supposedly stood for, except for himself. And people told me all along, this guy doesn't stand for anything. He's a charlatan. He stands for himself. I said, no, he's not. He's one of us. And he wasn't. And I feel so let down.
Yeah,
I'm having chicken for Christmas dinner, and it's called Boris.
It's betrayal, isn't it? It is a betrayal, Dawn, for a lot of people who did back Boris. I will always give him a hell of a lot of credit for delivering Brexit.
But you know what? He didn't even do that because David Frost did that. He did all the hard work, all the negotiating.
And Farage and Steve Baker.
Well, yeah, but I mean, David Frost officially did it because he was in the government. But he's actually resigned now because he's fed up with how did he phrase it? The direction of travel that Boris is driving.
Yeah.
I mean, people who voted blue ended up getting green with a bit of red, which makes brown. And we all know what brown is.
What's wrong with brown, Dawn?
Nothing wrong with brown.
I'm just saying.
But,
that's not what we voted for.
Careful, you're outnumbered tonight.
There's an emoji for what I'm trying to say. I know
the point that you were making. But it is now time to reveal the ultimate union jackass of 2021. Emily, cover your union jackass.
Simply Matt Hancock.
Matt Hancock.
We have all plumped for Matt Hancock.
No shocks here. It's Matt Hancock.
Matt Hancock. Matt Hancock.
Matt Hancock.
Matthew Hancock.
Matt Hancock.
Matt Hancock.
Well, it's just, it's been such a tough year for so many people.
He's the most deluded, cringiest man in politics.
Just for being so arrogant, he broke the rules, but then he's
flouting around on TV, going to Jingle Bell Ball like he's some kind of celebrity.
It's based on the outfit that he wore to Capital's Jingle Bell Ball, because that is an unforgivable Steve Jobs cosplay. Why was he at the Jingle Bell Ball? He is not a member of Little Mix.
I know. Matt Hancock rebrand, isn't it? Look,
there it is.
Oh.
Look at that. The best thing they could possibly do is just stay out of the limelight.
The only man to turn a resignation video into a pathetic blowing of his own trumpet.
I'm very proud of what we've done to protect the NHS.
But I guess it's better than who was previously blowing his trumpet, if you get...
Oh, Dawn! The way that he has treated his wife, and we'll come back to it later in the week, utterly appalling. Who's your greatest Brit?
Mrs. Hancock, for showing remarkable restraint, togetherness, and not wearing her husband's testicles as earrings, as I would be.
It was such a throwback to the scenes that I remember from school discos as an adolescent.
He's won! You don't need to say any more. Honestly, that's it.
The jackass of the year.
I think he's actually the Union Jackass of the year.
Hancock.
Esther Kraku, we called it. We called it all those weeks ago. I mean, there was only one bloke who could take the title, Calvin Roberts.
The biggest hypocrite of them all, the one who told us not to do everything and then went and did it himself. Outrageous. Get rid of him.
Dawn, any more fruity contributions?
I know.
I've got what she, Dawn.
Where are your earrings from, Dawn?
He did like a victory lap, didn't he? He went around the country filming little videos of himself being popular with the people.
My favourite, apart from the video with his mistress, was the dodgy contract he gave his mate, you know, who ran the local pub. And the local pub was called the Cock Inn. And I'm sorry, I'm not going
He
there.
denies, obviously, Dawn. He denies, obviously, Dawn, that there was anything dodgy.
There was nothing untoward about that in any way, shape or form, obviously.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the full top 10. What a year it's been. There's been lots of jackasses in 2021, but I think it was just so clear right from the very moment that I saw that iconic, for all the wrong reasons, some front page, that it was going to be Matt Hancock. And that's because, Esther, he, out of everyone in government, was the person who was almost sort of maniacal in terms of asking us to follow the rules.
He was the architect of our misery. Yeah. He was so, like, he just took such joy in effectively destroying our lives.
Yes.
Well, you know what gets me? He's putting his name in the mix as a potential future.
Oh, yeah, but that's never going to happen.
Could you imagine
shows how delusional
representing
he is.
Great Britain?
Well, Matt Hancock, let me just tell you, you are the Union Jackass of 2021. What a fabulous final show I've had. What an amazing superstar panel. I love you all. The very sparkly Dawn Neeson, the very suave Calvin Robinson, and the very sexy Esther Kraku. I'm allowed to say that, right? Thank you so much for your company all year. You know I love you. I'll be back on January the 3rd. Have an amazing Christmas. Hug your relatives. Don't be scared. And we will continue the fight back on GB News next year. Merry Christmas.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. Some brighter skies for some tomorrow before more cloud and rain arrives from the west. However, backtrack to this evening and high pressure still firmly in charge, as it has been for the last week or so. And what that means, calm conditions and a cold night. But it is waning towards the near continent, allowing milder air to come from the west and also bands of rain. And we'll see that as we head through into Christmas Day. For the time being, though, it's cold outside. Holes in the cloud will allow temperatures to plummet. A fairly widespread frost anywhere from Scotland, England and some parts of Wales. Away from Northern Ireland and the West Country, a keen breeze here, more clouds and temperatures holding up. But certainly it's going to be a frosty start to the day come Wednesday morning across many areas, but with some hazy sunshine, so some brighter skies. Through the morning, though, that cloud will eventually bring some rain to Northern Ireland, quite a fresh wind across Irish Sea coast, as the rain slowly pushes up towards the western parts of Scotland, clipping West Wales as well as the West Country. Drier skies to end the day further east, but temperatures will struggle here, 4, 5, 6 degrees Celsius. And through the evening, as the rain pushes across Scotland, it will turn to snow above around 300-400 metres and even some sleetiness at lower levels for a time. As some showers move in across England and Wales, and then more wet weather returns to Northern Ireland through the latter part of Wednesday night and into Thursday morning. However, the key feature of the weather as we head through Thursday, yes, there'll be quite windy in places, outbreaks of rain, but the temperatures will be a few degrees higher. Certainly feeling milder across England and Wales and Northern Ireland. Still a lot of rain, though, just grinding to a halt across Scotland, and a keen breeze across the far north as more rain pushes in across Wales and the West Country later, and also that brisk wind. Temperatures here, double figures though, so not so bad, although the air will slowly get colder from the north as we head into Christmas, with a chance of some snow showers in the northeast.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists.